We're excited to welcome Phoebe Gates, co-founder of Phia, for a conversation at a pivotal moment in the company's journey. Phoebe co-founded Phia in April 2025 to rethink how people discover, evaluate, and trust what they buy online, using AI to align real consumer behavior with brands. Just yesterday, Phia announced a $35 million Series A to build what they described as the AI alignment layer for commerce. In under a year, the platform has surpassed 1 million users, partnered with over 6,200 brands, and embedded an AI shopping agent directly into how consumers already shop, surfacing real-time insights around price, resale value, and taste.
This conversation comes at a moment when AI is actively reshaping consumer behavior, retail economics, and the power dynamics between shoppers and brands. We're excited for a great conversation with Phoebe on how Phia evolved from an experiment into a fast-scaling platform and what it means to build consumer AI at the intersection of culture, trust, and commerce. On that note, we want to start by asking everyone joining us today to please download Phia. So Mandy just dropped the link in the chat, so that will go straight to the App Store, and we would love if you could explore the app or online after the conversation ends. So with that, Phoebe, thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to have you for this virtual Venture in the Capital speaker series. And we will start off with the first question. I'd love to kind of get a little bit of context about Phia. So for someone who has just downloaded Phia today, or maybe has never even used it before, it might look or even feel like a shopping tool, at least at first glance. But when you zoom out, how do you describe what Phia actually is and what it's becoming?
Absolutely.
Are you having trouble hearing from your end?
I can't either. Phoebe, I think we're having a little bit of trouble hearing you potentially.
Not quite yet. You're good. Take a second. You're good.
Let's see.
How about now? Does that work?
Yeah, that's perfect. Awesome.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
To that end, I was just saying that I'm completely honored to be here because I'm not even certain I would have gotten into Georgetown. So I was incredibly honored when you guys reached out to me to have me speak, and I couldn't be more excited to be here. So on your question, absolutely. I think first and foremost, Phia is a tool, right? The reason that me and Sophia built Phia was because we were the girls in our Stanford dorm room scrolling for hours trying to find the best dress on Depop to wear to the spring formal, or trying to hunt for that perfect designer bag secondhand. And so quite literally, Phia is a tool where as you're shopping, our CTA is literally, it sits in your little corner and says, should I buy this? And when you click on that, it's instantly going to tell you, hey, does this item hold its value? What are the reviews? What are the alternatives that are available? Is this the right size for you based on your past returns? And so we wanted to really answer that age-old question and frankly save you time by giving you all those insights immediately, or save you money by finding you a better alternative. But absolutely, there is so much more to Phia than even what we've built in the last 10 months and have in market today. Really for us, what I'm beyond excited about is the fact that commerce just hasn't adapted in 30 years. I mean, if you think about it, we've been looking ever since the dawn of the internet at these static product pages where you're looking at an item, saying how many are available and what size. It's absolutely not customized to you and your size preferences, your tastes, your interests, your price range. And so this idea of could we fundamentally, recreate a new way of shopping that's one both social and that democratizes access to the personal shopper. And so we started as a tool we think of shopping as kind of a funky upside down triangle. We started as a tool that really serves you when you're in that bottom of funnel. Okay, you have this beautiful dress, but you're deciding, should I or should I not buy this? But now we're really using and learning from our consumers about what they're interested in to give each and every consumer like an infinite personalized feed to expand into, okay, we want Phia to become the primary destination that you're opening when you're even starting that shopping journey before even knowing what you want, because shopping is really, really fun.
Yeah. I think that's awesome to kind of hear the origins of Phia a little bit. I guess, what surprised you most about how people ended up using Phia once it was kind of out in the real world compared to how you potentially originally imagined?
Absolutely. Well, that's a really great question. So, when we originally launched Phia, we actually created it for, frankly, a school project. So, me and Sophia were taking a class at Stanford around verticalized agents. So, think, Windsurf or Cursor for coding or Harvey for legal. And our goal was okay, let's start with creating the first basis of a tool that can help people shop and actually make shopping fun again. And originally, we would only show secondhand alternatives. So as you're shopping, it would immediately show you the secondhand item. That's still a core value prop of Via. When we started talking to consumers, which I would give this advice to anyone who's building, don't just go interview consumers about, hey, do you like my product or not? Everyone's going to tell you yes. You have to actually give them the product and see how they use it because oftentimes users will really surprise you by how they're actually using it in ways that you never even anticipated. And one thing that we learned is people were actually using the resale alternatives to determine, is this a good purchase for me to buy firsthand? So I'll give the example of like Reformation dresses. A user would look at this Reformation dress and say, well, actually, this is holding really good value on the resale market. I'm going to go ahead and buy this over buying a cheaper, Zara alternative. And so that was really shocking to us because we not only saw that our consumers were actually buying at a higher price point once they had Fiat installed, but they were actually dropping their returns by over, 50% because they were often considering the purchase for a longer time before buying with Fiat. And so that was really exciting for us because we could say, okay, great, now we can work with both sides of the market. Let's go work with a ton of resale marketplaces. Let's work with smaller sellers on the Depop side. Let's get people, if we can, to buy secondhand because we know it's an 80% carbon reduction. But also let's go partner with brands to see if we can, help with making consumers make the right purchasing decisions and giving them all that information right away. Which partnering with a brand is incredible because we also get more data around, okay, what's the sleeve length on this? What's the cut? So we can better serve our users knowing, okay, this user, maybe Mandy likes this kind of sleeve length or, Emma's interested in this kind of cut. We can also serve all that information to you if we have a direct partnership with the brand. So to date, we now partner with about 6,200 brands, which has been really incredible and achieved over an 11x revenue growth since launch.
That's awesome.
That's great. So you kind of mentioned how you started, it started as kind of like a science project between you and Sophia. But Phia is a portmanteau of you and Sophia's names. Before it was a company, what was the original idea that you were trying to bring to life? Because I know that you experimented with some really different concepts, including the idea of a Bluetooth tampon. How did these early experiments really shape the direction that Phia ultimately took?
That's a great question. It really started not even as the concept of, hey, me and Sophia are going to start a company. What does this company look like? Let's go pick the best idea. It started as two roommates. We weren't even supposed to be roommates. We were supposed to be paired with different people, and housing messed it up. And we were both on completely different tracks. She was pre-law, I was pre-med. And we started experimenting together and kind of coming up with these kind of late night ideas of, okay, what if we could do this? Which, yes, one idea was a smart tampon. But really what we coalesced on was there's kind of this, what's it called? The Ikigai chart of like, are you the right person to solve this problem? Can the problem actually make money? And like, and does the world actually need this? And when we started to combine those three for all the problems we were looking at, for example, electric cruise ships, absolutely the world needs that. Absolutely it can make money. Are we the right people to build that? Absolutely not, because we're not mechanical engineers. And for us, when we thought about it really with Phia, like we were the right people to solve this problem. We are the girls in our dorm room who are searching for the right item. And for us, it was like, okay, we also know that we can spend the next 50 years of our lives focusing on this problem and creating, frankly, a verticalized AI agent that solves all of shopping's problems and makes it really social and fun online again. And so for us, before Phia was a company, before it was, even like an idea, it really was just a dorm room project of what can we build and actually what are we fundamentally the best people to solve.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think hearing about kind of like the dorm room to business, and then obviously you are building the burnouts, your podcast, which highlights the chaotic, unfiltered realities of launching a startup in your 20s. So, how does that world influence the way that Phia has developed over time?
Yeah, well, I'd say a couple things. I'd say number one, there was such a focus on building a personal brand today. And that was really core for us because we knew that as a consumer company, you need to be able to drive downloads, drive users to your application at essentially a $0 cost of acquisition. So I'd say if you're a consumer founder, absolutely having a personal brand is a huge advantage. But on the flip side, we also are really cognizant of the fact that like there are very few entrepreneurial podcasts from women. And more frankly, as we would listen to all of these shows, it'd be like someone who'd sold their company or who had IPO'd, kind of going on like a victory lap. And what
Yeah.
we were really excited about was like, okay, can we get founders to actually talk about what it was like when they were at the original building stage, or where did they fail? Or if it's a fashion designer, how did they find that first supplier, that first designer they were going to work with? How did they actually get seed funding? What was the craziest thing they did for their first sale? And so for us, it was this idea of like, okay, can we leverage the privilege that we have in the network that we have to actually essentially like open source the founder journey and to bring our consumers along for what we were building at Phia? I think a really also good point of this is that we learned it couldn't only just be the podcast to bring people along for what we were doing. We actually needed to bring users into our development process. And so one thing originally we were really cognizant of, like, we only wanted things to be polished or perfect before they would go to users. And now one thing that is exponentially increased our velocity as a team is we have over 50 power users come to our office every other week, and we ask them to only roast the app. We give them, access to new features. We show them what's on our roadmap. And 9 times out of 10, we end up completely changing what we are going to build based on their feedback. But being in that room, seeing us, think about new product features and bringing our audience along for the ride is really a catalyst of what we're also trying to do with the burnouts on a larger scale. Is we really want to unpack what the founder journey looks like and to take away these glorified myths of like, you need to have a perfect resume before you go and start the company. Because the reality is, like, me and Sophia are in our, early 20s. We don't have a perfect background. We don't have a perfect resume, but we saw an opportunity and we were the target consumers to build this. We started solving for our own pain point. And now, because we did that and we took that leap of faith, we've now created something that in only 10 months has 1 million users. And we are in by no means special geniuses to be able to do that. Every single person has an opportunity to create something incredible. And I think really the core goal of everything we're doing is really open sourcing, frankly, our learnings from other incredible founders in our network. And then also trying to echo, particularly to young women, but also to other founders, that anyone can start an idea and anyone can learn.
That's awesome. I know Emma and I enjoyed listening, so everyone should listen after this.
Yeah. It's a great podcast and great guests too. So I'd love to shift a little bit into kind of an aspect of Phia. So Phia does have a sustainable element, but at a higher level, it also has the potential to really reshape how supply and demand function in retail as a whole. So I'm curious, how does greater resale visibility and price transparency influence how consumers think about purchasing?
Absolutely. So for us, one of like the clearest signals in commerce that we saw wasn't really about like, okay, how do you increase speed or conversion? But for us, we were really interested in the problem of returns. I mean, we know they're expensive, they're operationally messy, and they drive a ton of CO2 emissions. I mean, we're talking 24 million metric tons of CO2 emissions are attributed just to e-commerce returns each year. And most returns actually happen because people are forced to decide without enough context. They don't actually have the reviews on the item. They're not actually certain what size they should wear, so they end up getting multiple and then returning it back. And so for us, we really wanted to bring in all of the context for the consumer so they didn't actually have to do that research on their own, and so that we could actually drop down or lower those return rates. I mean, frankly, it's controversial, but we are always a consumer first company, and we will literally tell consumers, no, you should not buy this item. It does not have good reviews. It's not going to retain its value over time. And for that, we've actually seen that our consumers are buying less, but when they do buy items, we're dropping those return rates by over 50%, which is really, really important to us. On the other side, one thing that I think is incredibly cool to see is not only are we making it easier for people who shop secondhand before to find secondhand goods, because we all know the crux of, searching across the RealReal, Depop, Poshmark, and we want to bring that all together in, one unified search experience where you can go in our app and search for an item and it immediately pulls from all those marketplaces. But what's really cool to me is when I hear that people who've never shopped secondhand have started doing it because of Phia. And because when they see, okay, if an item's authenticated, they see the drop in the price, it's just really a no-brainer for them. And I think actually making, kind of the barrier to entry of shopping secondhand lower is something that really, really excites me about Phia, because we know when someone purchases secondhand, that's an over 80% carbon reduction. And I really think as Phia continues to grow, one thing that's going to be really, really important to us is continuing to give consumers, valuable insights and context so they can make their own informed decision, whether that's actually showing them, is this brand sustainable? What does their supply chain look like? What is that material quality? And continuing as we get a larger and larger database to just give consumers more like aware context about what they're actually purchasing so that they can make the best decision for themselves without them having to do the overhead and research.
Right. And you kind of just touched on kind of where you're excited to go with Phia. But I'm curious, just adding on to that, who makes up Phia's core users today? And I guess where do you see the biggest opportunities being to expand?
Absolutely. So really, it's funny if you think about it. I mean, if you think about stereotypically where women who love to shop in the US are, that's our consumers. We're Gen Z, millennial, it really doesn't matter the age, but we see that, Texas is huge for us, Florida, New York, California, Washington, D.C. is up there, Chicago is in Illinois is huge for us. And so it's really interesting to see that kind of these pockets of urban areas are where we see like a number of our power users. And frankly, we've really indexed on this female consumer who loves to shop, who spends a lot of time shopping. She's curating on her Phia, wish list different items. She's considering and actually deciding, okay, should I buy this item or this item? And that's really where we see the opportunity to expand is not only internationally, but actually assisting her not just in, clothing, but all of her purchases. So one thing we're actually rolling out next week is as you're shopping beauty, showing you how long that item's gonna actually last you. Are those ingredients actually safe for you? Does a cheaper alternative that maybe actually has a larger supply of the actual core ingredient you're trying to get exist on another site for a better price? And so really for us, it's first about, okay, honing in on this core consumer. We have to, make it even better to help her consider, should I buy this, by adding more insights in there beyond what we've already done. Then we've got to do category expansion into, adjacent things like beauty and such. And then I think it's really about both bringing in other communities and then expanding internationally.
Awesome. I'm excited for the beauty aspect to launch. Looking kind of more into the trend aspect of Phia, it obviously has a unique vantage point into how value actually moves in fashion, and not just seasonally, but really in real time. You've seen moments like a skim sale drive a 200% spike in traffic, and celebrity closet drops or collaborations have spiked interest in noticeable ways. So, what trend insights have you developed since launching Phia, and what moves markets?
That's a really great question. I think honestly, before starting Fiat, I would have said, I would have been like, oh, trends are dead. That is absolutely not true. I mean, the reality is that so much of shopping is about, social perception and what we think is cool right now. So whether it's, the special drops, creating a crazy surge effect like the Rode birthday bag, or, broader cultural moments really moving the needle in terms of sales for brands, we see that, like things like, for example, Taylor Swift's engagement. We saw over a 15% increase in Ralph Lauren searches, or, content identifying her outfit sources that reached over 4.9 million people just from us, creating that content. And then after that, we started a series where we'd also show, when a celebrity was walking in New York or had a concert, we would profile and find those exact items secondhand using our own algorithm. And those have reached over, 20 million people. We also saw that, the same impact when we saw like, Summer I Turned Pretty launched. That was really incredible. So for each of those brands, we saw a really interesting amount of conversion around those as well. And then there's kind of overarching things like you can see, colors obviously shift based on the season, what people are actually shopping changes. The Met Gala, we saw a 70% increase in people buying heels, particularly sparkly stilettos after that came out. So it's really interesting to see that, okay, broader cultural moments and seasonal shifts really, really do matter. I think oftentimes we think, oh, it's the influencer of the day posting or linking that's really driving, what commerce is and what people are actually buying. But it's really interesting to see that larger cultural context is still really, really core.
That's awesome. And kind of honing in a little bit more on your kind of personal career, you've spoken about being a female founder, building a space where many of the users are not women, especially in the technology founders. How do you see Phia influencing that imbalance? And what advice would you give women who want to build companies in this space?
That's a great question. And you know what? I think it's completely unacceptable that 2% of VC funding goes towards women.
Mhm.
The reason that I think that that's really unacceptable is because we know, we live in a capitalist society and people who create companies have a huge opportunity to not only, amass great influence, they get to decide, okay, who's that smart person we're going to hire? What are we going to work on for the product? But they actually get to create their lived vision of the world, right? So when we talk about commerce not adapting, when we know that, 3/4 of consumer spend, which by the way is the lifeblood of the American economy, not SaaS, is driven by women, the fact that this space really hasn't developed besides us having fast fashion is crazy. But it's also a huge market opportunity because when you think about, male founders might not have the same lived experience of searching and scrolling on Depop for hours that me and Sophia had in our dorm room. So for us, we could say, oh, wow, this is a huge opportunity. And the fact that 2% of VC funding goes towards women, that is not only a crime, but it is also a huge opportunity to think about, okay, what experiences do you have as a consumer where you have founder market fit to build for that other people don't understand or have? The biggest thing that I would say to other founders, the reality is I have an incredible amount of privilege. I'm also a non-technical founder building in tech. The reality is that founding a company, the number one trait that you need to have is learning how to fail and learning how to fail again and again and again. And being a founder is literally just stacking rejection upon rejection and learning how to say, okay, that user really hated that feature. Why? Were they not our target user, or was our latency really bad? Do we need to improve that? Okay, wow, that person didn't understand that. How are we going to fix that? Just time and time again, being able to have different things that don't work out and being able to push ahead and actually create a plan. And so I'd say that's the number one thing that matters. The reality is that we know from studies also, a woman will ask for a promotion once she feels that she's like 95% of the way there, versus a man will do it when he feels he's 30% of the way. This has been statistically proven. I mean, the reality is that I would say to people that you have to start, the sooner the better, because you're just going to have to get shots on goal for building, because the reality is the first product you build is not going to work out, and it's all about, developing a system for experimentation and trying different things. So I'd hope that other people, whether they're technical or not, whether they think they have the perfect resume or they're the right person to do it, I hope they go forward and build. And, if one woman who listens to the burnouts, takes that away and ends up starting something, I will be incredibly excited and feel that I've done my job.
Some great advice that I think hopefully people here will also take away. And really bringing it back to the conversation here today, there are a lot of students watching. And for those students, many of them I know are thinking about starting something of their own, but really aren't sure when they're ready. And I know you kind of just said you kind of just have to go for it. But having started Phia so young yourself, what is one signal maybe that you think really matters more than experience when deciding to take that leap?
Yeah, I'd say honestly, like if you wait till you're ready, you'll never start. Like if there's a problem you believe in solving, like start building and get that underway. I'm not saying take the leap of, quit your job or drop out of school. Once you get clear signal that, okay, this is something I can actually, make a living on. This is something that clearly users like, and like there's something here. For me and Sophia, our professor gave us a grant and we actually shut down the class project of Phia. And we got all this inbound from users saying, hey, where did it go? And we were shocked because the first version of Phia was terrible. But the first starting to actually build before you know if it works, that's something you should 100% do on the side. Because the worst thing is what? You start building some side project of some idea you have and it doesn't work out. I mean, what did the Dyson founder build like 400 different ideas before he hit it on the Dyson? Me and Sophia tried like 25 different things in college before it worked out. And worst comes to worst, you end up with a project that didn't work out that's a huge resume builder that you can show on your personal portfolio. So I'd say number one piece of advice is go ahead and start building. Once you have validation, that's when you can go ahead and take a leap as well and lean in.
That's awesome. And I think kind of on that note, what did being young allow you to see? I know you touched on that a little bit, but it'd be awesome to hear more about kind of starting in college, trying to be a founder of a company and kind of what came along with that.
I think there's different upsides and downsides depending on your age as a founder, right? I think anyone can absolutely succeed. We know that, being a founder does not discriminate by age, but I think that there is something special about it depends where you're building. For example, building in consumer, like we are the consumer that we are solving the problem for. We are that young woman shopping. We are the girls in New York who want to find the best outfits. And so I think that perception of actually having consumer understanding and understanding, okay, this is going to go viral, this is going to do really well, or no, this hook is not going to work, is honestly a huge advantage that me and Sophia have because we are the consumer that we're solving for. I also think when you're young, the reality is like, I don't have a family that I need to deliver to. I don't have kids, and I'm able to really think about my life as like a stove where I have different burners, like my social life, my family, my work, or education. And for me right now, my work burner is turned all the way up. And I'm able to do that, as a nexus of don't have a family that I need to go home to or spend time with. And if it means turning off my social life right now, like that's completely fine. But I'd say really it's not about age. It's more about, do you understand the consumer that you are solving for? If you're an expert in that industry, incredible. If you are the right age or the right target profile for what you're solving, amazing. And then third, like I do think that there is an incredible advantage of having, the advantage of being young on your side and being able to fully turn up your burner and just focus on work.
Yeah, and so kind of flipping the switch more towards looking for jobs, I guess. So you've said that building the right team becomes especially critical for you and for Phia post Series A. So as Phia scales, what qualities or signals do you as a company look for in hires that matter more than traditional credentials? So thinking more specifically, since your teams really does include many people who are early in their careers, what do you see in younger candidates that makes them stand out, even compared to more experienced applicants?
Absolutely. I'd say for us, one thing that was really critical early on is there's this quote that's like, if you're a founder and you think you're the smartest person in the room, like you are doing something wrong. Once that your product starts to work, your entire job as a founder changes. It goes from, okay, you are not the person doing the tax return anymore. Your job is to find people who are 10 times smarter than you, to give the different processes to run and to give them agency to own what they're building. For me, the number one thing that I really look for is, number one, have they been a past founder or do they side hack on the side? Like, have they built different things? Have they tried different things that have either worked or not worked? Past founders are really exciting. Not to say that every candidate does. We have plenty of incredible people on our team who are not past founders. The reason that I like that is because it shows a really, really high agency person who's able to, function in an environment where they're not given a list of tasks to do, but they can say, oh, okay, I see a problem here. I'm now going to go solve XYZ problem. And this is how I'm going to prioritize to get the different things done, because that's really, really critical within a startup. The second thing that I look for outside of that is I also really look for how someone writes, frankly, their email. I am a huge person who loves the cold email. I probably send about 50 a day in terms of, our brand partners and sales. I am always sending out LinkedIn messages in my DMs. And I really always look for someone who can craft a really incredible cold email. Particularly, there was a candidate I'll never forget who sent me an email and it was titled like, your dream intern you just hadn't met yet. And the top of the email said nothing about her and her incredible background, which I eventually, got her resume and I was like, wow, blown away. She had a great background. She'd done really cool stuff. But the entire top of the email was providing value to me. It was telling me ways our product can improve, telling me bugs she had seen and different ideas that she had. And then only then, after she had gotten me hooked with that, then did she say, hey, I'm looking for roles. Do you have 15 to connect this week? Would love to help solve these problems. And that email honestly changed for me the way that I even think about cold outreach now. I'm no longer reaching out to our brand partners and saying, hey, we'd love to have you on. Phia really likes you and we want to drive you some sales. It's more about appealing to the brand partner and delivering them value, and then following up with the ask and a clear, okay, do you have 15 minutes to connect this week? And so I'd say really, thoughtful candidates who focus on really incredible cold outreach is another way I really think of it. And then also persistence, someone who's willing to follow up, twice, three times. Those are often the candidates who get their foot in the door. And I think that, showing persistence and showing that you can actually deliver value are two things that really, really matter.
Awesome. I like the cold email point. And shifting a little bit away and looking into kind of the funding of Phia. So, since launching in April of 2025, Phia has raised more than $40 million from a mix of leading institutional investors, including Kleiner Perkins, Notable Capital, and Khosla Ventures, as well as cultural figures like Kris Jenner, Hailey Bieber, and Sheryl Sandberg, and many more. Just yesterday, you announced a new $35 million Series A at an $185 million valuation. led by Hans Tung at Notable Capital, with participation from Keith Raboy, a familiar face to venture in the capital, and returning investor Annie Case from Kleiner Perkins. How has that combination of cultural and institutional capital shaped Phia's growth, brand identity, and credibility as a company? And in what ways did having celebrity investors change how people discovered, perceived, or trusted Phia early on?
Totally. That's a great question. So, speaking on the celebrity front, I think it was really important for us to bring in people that we knew would give us credibility in terms of
Yeah.
culture and fashion, right? You don't have to like the way I dress. It's probably not the best or the way Sophia dresses, but we know that those people matter, particularly to our target consumer, and also have brand voice and brand share within fashion. And that's why locking those names were really important for us because it gave us a leg up around okay, if someone heard about this is the app that Hailey Bieber or Kris Jenner invested in, they're going to think, okay, wait, I want to go download that app because, maybe it says something about me if I actually use this product, or maybe it says that, I'm fashionable or that I fit into this target consumer. And so I think that that was really, really important for us was not only to get, incredible people like Hans and Kleiner and Khosla who are truly the best of the best at building and scaling frankly billion-dollar consumer companies, but also bringing on people that we thought as frankly cultural needle movers that would really help the company.
Perfect. And I think kind of given the time, we have to ask kind of how Phia plans to use the Series A funding to grow.
Absolutely. So for us, two things, moving to that discovery mode. I mean, building out an infinite personalized shopping feed and socials for consumers is no small feat. But honestly, when thinking about the use of the capital, the reality is we are raising this money 100% to invest in the best of in the game, whether that's ML engineers, full stack developers. We want to move at light speed and continue to build out our team of incredible past founders and high agency people. So if you know anyone who is looking for a job, we have our careers page linked on Phia, or they can email hiring@phia.com. That is our number one focus and where we will be deploying, frankly, all of this capital that we've raised is to A-star players across tech, partnerships, and also design working with Phia.
That's great. So we just have one more question for you before we kind of open it up. So this is really much broader and for you as just an individual. I would love to know if there is one piece of advice that you think that, or that you've received from founders, from other people multiple times, that founders often receive that you think is a bit overrated.
Ooh, overrated is a great question. Wow, I did not prepare for this one. I apologize. I'll tell you the best piece of advice and then I'll come
That's
to the
perfect.
overrated one. Okay, so best piece of advice I've ever gotten is Whitney Wolf Herd, who obviously was CEO of Bumble and then left and then came back. One thing I asked her, I was like, what do you think you're doing differently this time? Like, what's the biggest thing you've learned? And she's like, I used to burn myself out so much. I used to work so hard. I'm still doing that. But now I think of my energy as like a watering can every day. And so she's like, when I'm, standing or doing something, I'm in a meeting, I'm like dumping out my water and spending time on it. So if I'm thinking about, oh, wait, did I look good in that last meeting? Or does that person actually like me? Like you're just standing and like watering a weed that's not going to grow into anything. But if you're, standing and you're investing in talking to a customer or, getting roasted in a helpful way where it's shaping your product roadmap, then you're actually dumping like your water on something that's like actually productive that's going to like move the company forward. And then in terms of overrated advice, I think there's so much that's indexed on like this 996, which our team works ridiculously hard. Like we are working 100% like 6 days a week till very late. But I honestly think one thing that people don't index on enough is like if you don't get good sleep, you are not going to be a good team member the next day. And so I think like indexing on that is also really, really important.
Awesome. So I think we have a few questions in the chat, which we might be able to respond to. If other people have questions, you are welcome to put them in and we can kind of answer them as we see them. Phoebe, you should be able to just click answer live, and that would allow everybody else to see the question as you see one that you're interested in answering.
Amazing. Okay, let me do this one. Okay, I love this question. I'm preparing my startup for a seed round. Bootstrap so far, really impressive. How would you recommend going about storytelling and networking cadence to get your select group of dream investors excited? Any advice on how you would do this remotely? Most of my ideal investors are based in SF and New York while I'm near DC. Also, what is one thing that surprised you about the process you wish you had known before? Okay, so I'll start with the first one is having a really, really good deck is really important. So if you've already bootstrapped it thus far, that's incredible. If you don't have a landing page today, I was just talking to a friend about this. Spinning one up, especially if you're like a B2B product or consumer product, and showing, getting a friend or someone in your network to send that to a couple people in your target consumer base. Let's say you're building a product for investors and actually enabling like post hog on your website to see where they're clicking around. Get a couple of people to sign up, just put their emails in and agree to be, design partners, because that's going to be so, so critical to your deck is saying, hey, I already have these people that are interested in my product. If you're a consumer product and you can do that with a wait list, even better. If you can get a small, basic version of your product out and get some, amazing metrics to start, like, oh, wow, maybe you only have 500 users, but it's like, hey, you have a really good daily active user engagement rate or really good repeat purchase rate. All of those stats, being able to highlight that to investors, really, really important. One thing that we did that is really critical that I actually learned from another founder is you don't want to cold outreach to investors. And it looks really good to an investor if you can get to them without having to go cold to their email. So I always will go to another founder and try to get an intro from another founder who's either worked with them, who's possibly pitched them before, because those warm founder intros and investors always willing to take a call. And it looks really, really good for you if you get introduced by another founder. I've literally cold LinkedIn DM'd founders and asked for intros to different people. And that is, really critical. You can even get that person on the phone, get their advice on your pitch, on your product before you go forward, because founders are willing to help founders out. And then honestly, once you have your deck, you want to structure it such that you have your deck, but you also have like a flow of how the pitch is going to work. And ideally, you've practiced that with several advisors or, people that you look up to, even professors before that can give you feedback and say, wait, that doesn't make any sense, or I don't understand what that is. Ideally, try to practice it on someone who has no idea, like, let's say you're building a product for investors. Try to find someone who has no idea about that space that you can give your pitch to see, do they understand it from the get-go? Because you want to make it really easy and explainable. And then the other thing I'd say is do not start with your number one investor. If you really want Khosla, don't go there first. Go to someone else that you're actually like maybe less excited about and learn. Go and try and pitch and learn, what did they like? What do they not like? Ideally, someone that you can get actual feedback from, or someone you have a close touch point with so you can hear what they back channel and say, such that you can improve your pitch before going to your number one investors that you really, really want to get. Lots more to say on fundraising and such, but that would be my biggest piece of advice there. Awesome. Oh, okay. This is great. What added features can people expect in the future? So the beauty state will be rolling out late next week. Another thing we're rolling out come, early February is digital closets inside Phia. So seeing what you've previously purchased with Phia, as well as being able to sync your email to add in other items to, improve that personalized feed for you and editorials that we're bringing your way. Okay. Let me go through this one. This is a great question. If I don't know how to code it all, oh no, I lost it. I'm so sorry. If I don't know how to code it all, but have an app/platform idea, should I learn to code myself or find someone to do it or think of a different startup idea? You can 100% do a startup if you don't know how to code. So number one, there's these great tools, Claude Code, ChatGPT. You can spin up a very, very basic version of your product without knowing how to code at all today if you can master Claude Code or working with chat. And that's, incredible reality that we didn't have 2 years ago. So I'd say spin up the initial version, get some traction, learn if people actually like it. And then, if you have traction there, that's when you can go bring on someone who's, going to work with you, who's going to help you build it out, whether that's someone who's working as employee or maybe is also like a technical co-founder. Oh my gosh, there's so many that are coming in as I scroll through. I get another one. Um, Sorry, every time I go, they keep going through. Ooh, this is a good one. You've had no doubt had tremendous success on your own through Phia. Thank you. We're just getting started, a lot more to do, so we'll see. But what is it like balancing expectations with your last name? This is a great question. The reality is, my last name comes with lots of privilege. I mean, my college was paid for. I was able to go on the entrepreneur track with, out being worried whether my parents would support me. And it's certainly opened a number of doors. I think the reality for me is focusing on, what my friends think, what the Phia users think, and having that be really what guides me in terms of how I think about success for myself. And honestly, acknowledging that, frankly, like having really supportive parents and being supported through college and such, that unlocks a huge, huge amount of doors for me. And so I think for me, it's more about just focusing on my own ego and how I'm delivering. There was another one down here. I'm missing it, but it said, "What is your dream partners for Phia?" Okay, I am really excited. We just launched Prada on Phia, and we got Chloe as well. So those were really exciting for me. We have a number of brands like Reformation does super, super well for us. The Real Depop, all those do super well. But when I saw that we got Prada live and that their team was willing to be featured on Phia, that made me feel like, okay, we're doing something big in fashion. So I've been really, really excited about that. This is a great question. When building a startup, how do you think about choosing partners? Raw capability and intelligence versus values alignment and the ability to work well together. You need to have both. This is actually something I messed up when I was speaking earlier, but if you have someone, even if they're the best past founder, most amazing person, if that person has ego that you cannot work with, you cannot work together. I mean, the number one thing about being in a startup is you're going to fail so many times. You're going to have a feature idea that doesn't work out. You're going to have, maybe a vendor or a partner who's unhappy. You're going to have to figure out how to do something you never knew how to do. And ego really, really is the number one reason that ideas and companies die. And so I'd say really focusing on, values and how you work together plus talent. You need to have all three because you cannot work with someone, even if they're the best person ever, in terms of if they have ego. Ooh, quality I most look for in a good co-founder. Good roommate is a good screener. I think that's how me and Sophia learned to work well super together. But I'd honestly say the number one thing I look for is alignment. Can you two work well together? And particularly like when there is conflict or something isn't going right, how do you two communicate is the most important thing. I think of Sophia honestly as my better half. I can't tell you that we agree on everything. That's not the reality. We're making hundreds of decisions a day, but it's the fact that the two of us can be like, okay, yeah, we disagree on this. Let's run that experiment and commit to it really, really fast. I'd say how you communicate with each other is the number one thing that you should be looking for because you're going to be scaling and doing so, so much together. What are some things and tools used for goal settings that have helped you? Okay, so this is my AI hack. At the top of every Sunday, I will talk into my chat, whatever you pick your AI that you like to use. I use chat, but I will say, okay, I'm a founder. I'm a really high performing founder, and you're my incredible assistant. Here's all my goals for the week. Here's everything I'm stressed about. Here's what's on my calendar this week. And I will literally sit and talk like a crazy person for 4 to 5 minutes to it. And I will ask, like, pretend I'm, like Steve Jobs, give me a list of everything that I shouldn't be stressed about. Tell me the meetings I should cancel this week. Tell me the things I'm not thinking about based on my rant that I should be thinking about that are really important goals for the company this week. Where is my ego blocking me and where am I getting, stuck in systems and processes that I need to remove myself from? AI will often do this thing where it tries to compliment you. So you have to be very strict about giving it guardrails on how to make you succeed. But that for me has been really critical in doing that session for myself, even just brain dumping at the top of every week and then using it to help me kind of read my thoughts back to me and prioritize has been really, really important. Ooh, what's the highest impact interview question? That's a great question. It really depends on what role that you're hiring for. For sales, my favorite thing, if you're working on a partnership team, is like, what is the craziest thing you've ever done to lock a sale? Like, I was talking to our head of partnerships. She will email sometimes people with the sports team that they love, how they did on the score last night, or anything really to get in the door. And then I think the best question to ask just generally is asking people like, what is your dream, particularly related to your career? Simon Squibb, who's come on the Burmounts, is incredibly famous for literally going around in public and asking people, what is your dream? And he has these incredible stories and videos of, when I was with him, a random guy who said he wanted to be a chef, who then, cooked for us. It was amazing. But asking people that, you learn really, really quickly what motivates them and what they are excited about. And particularly like if that's related to, becoming like a core leader within a company or building something cutting edge on the tech front, or really feeling like, okay, Phia, what we're developing, we're really thinking about this as an AI commerce lab and how we can build on all the new incremental inventions in the space. So you really learn quickly and get to the core of what that person wants. And it reveals, frankly, a lot about them as a person. Okay, there are so many questions here. I'm going to have to go back and answer all of these later. Oh, this is great. Between organic and UGC, what has made the biggest needle mover for Phia, and what would you recommend starting again? Sorry, it's scrolling. Okay, we did not start with paid ads at all. This was really, really important for us, was starting with very simple videos where both me and my co-founder would test before we'd actually build different product features. We'd test different videos where we'd say, hey, this tool does this. What do you think? And we'd create different TikTok accounts to basically talk about what we were building and see how those different videos did. Those organic videos where we'd have like a little hook that'd be like, oh, Phia's how all the Pinterest girls shop, and then going to get other like UGCs to make those videos without any paid spend behind them, that has still today driven the majority of all of our installs. And the reality is you get to learn really fast about what works versus what doesn't work. And so we'll use those hooks to test, should we invest in the digital closet or should we invest in this new product feature? And so I'd say 100% organic. If you can, on your own socials, learning, trial reels are amazing. Then going to UGC, and then, something works, that's when you can start to put paid spend behind it. But honestly, organic is 100% the way to go, particularly from the beginning. This is a great question. What was your favorite childhood memory from Seattle, and how did growing up in the Seattle area affect you? This is from a person from Redmond, which is outside of Seattle. Seattle's really great. In the summers, though, it's amazing because it rains all year. So it's super, super green. I think my favorite childhood memory was we have that amazing freshwater Lake Washington, which is really incredible. So being out there with my family. And I honestly think that Seattle was an incredible place for me to grow up because Seattle is so contained. In a way, if I'd grown up in New York or in LA, I feel like I would have been more forward facing. And Seattle allowed me to create relationships with incredible people I'm still really, really close with. And I also got to be around, a lot of other people building in tech, which was really incredible. Okay, this is great. Any recommendations when applying to stuff like the Teal Fellowship or pitching big VCs? We are currently on 200. Wow, this is impressive. Okay, so I again would say having your script really, really nailed down and going first, if you're big VC or you want the Teal Fellowship, I would really start with first going to other people that aren't your number one targets to really, really learn is going to be critical. And frankly, like try and get a rejection, try and get feedback from them. I'd say another thing is you also want to make sure that you have, for that team side, even if you're early on, bringing on a couple of really good advisors with good logos who can help to assist you and scale the company is going to be really critical. So like for us, one of our early advisors that we brought on was this woman, Joanne Bradford, and she was the president that did the sale of honey. And so that was really critical because, when we were going out and raising at first, people could say, wait, but you've never, built something like this. Okay, but this is kind of similar to these other companies. Oh, wow. You actually have someone who worked at that other company who has seen stuff like this scale, who can be really critical on like the revenue ops side of things. So I'd say having a really strong team side, both with you and, your co-founder, you have the Georgetown logo you can put on it, which is incredibly strong. Anywhere else you've interned, you should have all those logos there, but also making sure that if you have advisors with incredible logos or backgrounds, also highlighting that I think is really, really important.
I think maybe if you want to do one or two more questions, we should have time, and then we have a little announcement at the end, and then, yeah.
Perfect. Ooh, this is a great question. As you scale Phia, how do you think about hiring? What backgrounds tend to be the best fit for an early stage team? The one thing I didn't touch on besides past founders that are really incredible is people who are athletes or who you've seen, it doesn't necessarily need to be an athlete itself, but like showing that they've worked in some sort of club where there's like a team element is really, really important. athletes win. And so when you are, particularly for me, I always, whenever someone's an athlete or do an athlete, I pass that resume right through so I can see it or talk to that person, because those are people who are going to be incredibly disciplined and really, really good people on a team. Because if you're an athlete or you've worked in some sort of club or something like that, like, you know how to work with other people. If the team loses, how to keep people motivated. You know how to go back to practice and have that discipline. So I'd say that's one, kind of unique way that we're definitely thinking about hiring. Ooh, how did you manage building your business while studying and doing university? Not a lot of sleep, I'll be very honest. But if you can also get, Stanford was incredibly supportive. I don't know if Georgetown has this, but if you can do any sort of like independent studies around what you're building or try and get, a professor to sponsor you for an independent reading on entrepreneurship, I was able to get some credits that way, which was really, really incredible. But honestly, a lot of sleepless nights and a lot to balance. But I did feel like my time at Stanford taught me a ton about how to do time management and frankly, how to learn, which I've carried with me.
Awesome. And then whether you want to answer another question or Emma, if you wanted to move into kind of the feedback announcement.
We have time for one or two more if you want to go for it.
There's some good questions, so
They really are.
This is a great question. What's something that went wrong while you were founding Phia? Sorry, it's scrolling. Okay, so this was early on, and I'd say the biggest thing was, so me and Sophia, after we got the grant from our professor, came to New York and we're building Phia. And we spent so much time optimizing to make Phia beautiful. We built it all for desktop, but we didn't talk to users because we were so afraid about, frankly, getting our feelings hurt. And a couple months in, we started talking to users, and it was about 30, people we had over at the time. It was like at our friend's apartment. We didn't have an office. And this was the first time really it was being given to people who weren't friends and family. Well, of course, friends and family are going to say, hey, your product's great. As we showed it to these women, they were like, hey, yeah, this is great, but we only shop on our phones. And so that for us was like, oh, wow, okay, we've now wasted all these months building this product, and we need to completely redo the platform that we're going to be building it on. And we started doing some research, and sure enough, the majority of women are shopping on their phones. And so for us, if we had honestly just taken back our egos and actually like showed consumers or told them, hey, this is what we're thinking of building before doing it, that would have helped us so much. And so I'd say that's a really big learning. And I hope you guys learn that from me, is start talking to users even before you build. This is a great question. What's the exit strategy for Phia? I think this goes back to something I was yapping about quite a bit earlier, but around like the Ikigai chart of like, are you the right person to build this? Does the world need this? And can it make money? For me, the reality is me and Sophia are the only people to build this. We are the consumers that we're solving for. Absolutely. We need fundamentally a completely different way to shop as consumers. It's not working both for the merchants whose CAC has quadrupled in the past 2 years. It's not working on the consumer side. You should not have to map through 400 different sites just to find what's perfect for you. And there's no way that we can keep up with having returns this high. And then third, like, can it be an actual business and make money? The reality is for me that Phia fits all three of those. And so the reality is like, I want to spend the next 50 years of my life really building this product and focused on the company. I think that's it for now, but I don't know if you guys want to do the announcement as well. And then honestly, if you want to send me all of these questions, I'm happy to continue answering these. Or of course, if you guys want to send these to me over email at hiring@phia.com, I'm happy to take a look, but maybe I'll answer one more. I like this one. As a young founder, how did you instill confidence in your investors that you're the best person for the job? The reality is you shouldn't have to convince investors. You should come in with confidence and the numbers will speak for themselves. I mean, the reality is like being a founder is all about being ruthless, and that you are, number one, you have to have a small enough ego that if something goes wrong or you have an idea, you have to be very frank of saying, hey, this isn't working. Okay, we need to change this. But you also have to have enough of an ego to know in yourself that this is the product to build. There's a huge opportunity here and you are the person to do it. And so I think really when you go to an investor giving the pitch, you are the person who knows that pitch 10 times better than they do. You have the script. You should be incredibly confident and you should have numbers, that back this up. whether that's you had a first version of your product that worked, or now you're raising your Series A and hey, there's incredible traction, there's a community around this. I'd say really believing yourself, having confidence in yourself, and then letting the data and the product speak for itself is the most important thing.
Amazing. Well, Phoebe, thank you so much, first of all, for being here and for telling us all of this amazing advice and your story and Phia's story. And thank you to the audience for all of your great questions. And also thank you to everybody who filled out the feedback form for Phia. As appreciation, we do have a winner, and that is Caroline Fleming. And so we will be in touch with you shortly with details, but thank you everybody for filling those out. And I'll pass back to Mandy.
Yeah, so Phoebe, we just want to thank you so much for being here and for walking us through how you're kind of thinking about all of this. It's been really cool to hear about Phia, and kind of just how it's changing how people shop. And I think we also want to say congrats again for the recent raise and congrats to the team. It's been a pleasure to get to know you all. And thank you to everyone who has joined the webinar today. I hope you are definitely taking away with some great advice from Phoebe. And it was awesome to see all of your incredible questions. So we hope to see you all at the summit on Friday on the hilltop and hope everybody takes care.
Thank you guys so much. I can't thank you enough for having me. I'm incredibly honored. This is the highlight of my week. So thank you guys.
Thank
Thank you.
you
Have
so
a good
much.
one, everyone.